didn't
I don't
pick
know
up.
if that picked up.
Oh, you could say
Clap.
thank you.
Clap.
Clap.
Why do you all hate me?
I was way too close to the mic. Hello.
Hello.
Hey guys, is my mic quality good?
Yeah, it is actually.
Hello
Succulent.
and welcome back to the episode of the ReZero podcast.
ReZero.
Hello there! My name's Kyles, and you're watching the ReZero podcast. Today we're going to talk about the Shaula if, so they dragged me in, because I play Shaula on Studio Reverie. I'm Kyles McGiles. I'm also the voice of Amelia, and whenever our female characters can't show up, I am also them. Hello! I run the joint. And with me today are the boyos. Let's go on to the next boyo.
Hello, I'm the next boyo. I'm Connor, one of the normal hosts of the ReZero podcast, host of Julius and other characters, and I'm super excited to talk about the Scorpion EX. Brand new release.
And hi there, I'm Wolf or Wolfclaw. I voice Subaru here on Studio Reverie. I'm normally the co-host, but I've been coup d'etat today, and so I sit back. But I'm quite excited to talk about the EX today. It's a coup. A coup.
It was a request.
Allegedly, it's a coup. And I am Gold. And today, guys, we're talking about Shaula's Scorpion Tail, in which we get to see this lovable and energetic Star Keeper of the Pleiades Watchtower endure her own loneliness. That's right, guys. There is a brand new side story coming out from Teppei Nagatsuki. Based on Shaula. This could be adapted into an EX novel further down the line, but today we're here to discuss a special little translation that we got and talk about all the crazy implications therein. You probably heard a little bit of a lore blurb beforehand, a little bit of a summary, some things probably done by one of our amazing talents and edited by our lovely editor.
You're welcome.
And yeah. She did a great job, by the way, didn't she?
Yeah.
She
Totally
did.
done already.
Yeah, I saw it already, and it looks amazing.
I didn't just totally finish reading 5 minutes ago. It's all good.
Yeah, but today, I mean, hey, there is no better time, I think, in delving into Shaula's character, the mysterious Shaula, the supposed sage of Pleiades Watchtower. We cut to her, you know, by herself, and we get to see a bit of her backstory, everybody. Man, this EX novel was a treat, wasn't it, guys?
Yes, it was. A really fun fact about this is a little novel made specifically for the Blu-ray release. And because that's the case, and it's for Cour 1, it means we're able to make this an anime-only friendly episode of the podcast. So we are breaking this podcast up into 2 parts. So, of course, we got the summary beforehand. I'm probably going to do a little blurb before this as well, so you know. This is going to be an anime-only friendly section. It will be a companion episode video for those of us who have caught up with the web novel. We're going to talk about spoilers beyond the anime later on in the second video, so it'll be split up by the coordinating podcast channel. So it's either going to be the anime-only friendly one, or you can go to part 2 if you are a web novel reader and watch the rest. But that will not be anime-only friendly. That'll be web novel friendly. So we're going to talk about big things, spoilers there.
Big thing to note for that, if you are watching this at any time later than release, it is covering anime only up to the end of the first Cour of season 4. Not anything from the second Cour or later on, just to make sure that we are safe for everyone as fast as possible.
We decided we're going to talk about this a little differently. We're going to structure it a bit differently, but we're going to start off with someone kind of new. Who is it, Connor?
Yes, we have our new character, kind of the driving force of basically half of the story, Leilani, a pregnant wanderer that, alongside a large group of companions, made it through the Auguria sand dunes and met Shaula before our main cast did, probably a decade or so ago.
Yeah,
Leilani is the sole survivor of their group coming in, and as we meet them and uncover that not only is she pregnant and has been pregnant for quite some time, but as is revealed by the end of this is the mother of our current archbishops of Gluttony and the previous holder of the authority in the Witch Factor, the character that we've not seen before now. Brand new, just for this story.
Fresh off the press.
I really like how they depict her version of Gluttony compared to the triplets that she has. I like it's I read it really fast, so I'm still processing a bit of it. But I like that it's a hunger for her, and she is that, like, I don't know, people feel pity for her, and that's how she gains her power. But she's really just this like pitiful character that really just finds ways to make herself more like just survive.
Hmm. She has a lot of things in common with Betelgeuse in a way,
Mm-hmm.
of this very like self-detrimental view of it, like, oh, I'm so pathetic, I'm worthless, I'm like a burden on your time, while also being a hypocrite about all of that and rejecting and still demanding things of it. In the same way that Betelgeuse was extremely diligent but also slothful, she is very like giving and like, oh, I don't need anything, I'm too pathetic for all of it, but it's still asking more and more and more of Shala as the story progresses,
Mm-hmm.
which is a good take on that style of the archbishops.
Yeah. Very sneaky, very like behind the scenes. She almost doesn't feel like an archbishop because of that, like, I don't know. Not
Yeah.
maniacal, but like controlling kind
Hmm.
of side. Yeah.
She also speaks like very, very politely. Like it's
Mm-hmm.
in a way that's like I think in the Japanese context, this is like a very show of humility and modesty of like, I'm so low, I'm a lowly person, I'm beneath you, so I'm giving everyone around me this level of respect, which we find ties into the way that her authority functions, of the more pity that you feel for her, the more she can replace your memories with her own existence and start
Mm-hmm.
substituting herself in for everything else. You don't even notice it happening.
It's really interesting too because this authority she has, we actually get its name as well, and it's called
Yeah.
hyperphagia.
Uh,
Phagia.
I think overeating is what I understood to be the literal translation of it. So rather than like
Mhm.
vicious eating or whatever that one's called, or gourmet, which is like selective eating,
Yeah.
this one is overeating, which is kind of our
Well,
more.
when you Google up what that word actually means, it's kind of like the desire to constantly eat and constantly hunger.
Mhm.
So maybe the literal
Mhm.
translation is that, but the translation of the word that we got in the text was that one that's similar to like type 1 diabetes symptoms or like hyperthyroid symptoms as well.
Mhm. And that's
But
it's a very interesting take on it compared to the much more mix between internal and external, like offensive one that we see with the gluttonies in the modern story.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas hers is almost passive, like it just happens as it goes.
it reminds me a lot of how we get like informed about how the Witch of Lust's authority was supposedly worked. Funnily enough, it was a very interesting parallel, especially with them both being quite meek characters. I think there's some parallels you can draw in between them there. But I think this authority being called overeating, hyperphagia, it's really appropriate for a lot of reasons because like thematically it works a lot because it's gluttony before it's split up. It's like overeating and overconsuming, not these specified ones we get in these the second comings here, you know?
Mm-hmm.
Mhm.
But what is also interesting about this is her being pregnant and being pregnant for this extended period of time. A big element of pregnancy is like hunger cravings and specific dietary changes. And I
Mm-hmm.
feel like that kind of plays into it a bit too, which is really interesting.
Yeah, I honestly didn't even consider that until now. I was more focused on like her explaining that she's weaponized this pregnancy as an added layer of pity that people will feel for her, which
And
is
that's an
the
extension of gluttony too.
Mhm.
Yeah.
which is also the only way that she kind of gets her in on Shala. That we when we finally get some of the story from her perspective, that she explains that nothing was working on Shala, who should still be susceptible to it just by the fact that she is a living being with memories, until the one through line that she finds of I'm pregnant, and she seems to care about that because of Flugel's like enforcement onto her about like you have to care for pregnant people. It's a very deceptively like manipulative way. Like it's something that I think a lot of people might have experienced in their lives as well, of someone who's like doing this I'm like so terrible, like everything sucks around me, that honestly like a character I think that's very similar to that, where they kind of dissect that on the show, is Jerry from Rick and Morty, who uses his patheticness and like everyone feeling bad for him to like manipulate people around him and like get things to go his way, which is precisely what she's doing to Shaula and her 900 people and 150 ground dragons.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that all died to achieve that result.
Mhm.
She
Yeah.
got through Sandtime with 1 cart, 1 ground dragon, and like maybe 5 people.
Yeah, who all threw themselves into death's grasp to make it.
Also
Yeah.
being self-destructing, mind you.
It's interesting how that parallels very clearly, as we're kind of picking up here, a lot of the formation of a cult. Beetlejuice's like idea of cultishness. We saw those cultists self-destruct literally for the sake of the witch, right? And that kind of reminded me of that in the beginning. That's what I only thought it was. I didn't necessarily think it was necessarily sacrifice for her sake specifically. I thought it was just
Same.
them all
Mhm.
trying to get to this
Agreed.
tower. Yeah. And that's interesting. Yeah. The idea of pity as a form of an attack is interesting because it's not a physical form of attack, it's a mental form of attack.
Mhm.
And throughout this story, and we won't get into these parts that are kind of things that we have to say that are spoilers, but like a part of the story is Shala learning what her thresholds for pity is. She sees that as a weakness, but it's a weakness to humans to feel pity for others if somebody exploits it, as we see with Leilani throughout the story. But
Mhm.
it's a strength in all the people.
Yeah, it's something that as the manipulation starts to seep in and we see like a lot of the memories and concepts and identities of people that Shala like explicitly has flashbacks to slowly get overwritten and more comparisons. Oh, Leilani is just like my mom. Leilani is just like this. Like I remember her being in the tower before. I remember this all happening. All like building up. Not only was it like a decent mystery because that had me like theory crafting the whole time of like how was she here before? What did all this come from? Almost in a way that her authority was affecting us and like us trying to, or like me trying to
Yeah.
find a way to fit her into our existing knowledge of everything.
Yeah, it was really cool writing technique where like I was constantly being like I was double thinking and double questioning myself of wait, is there something wrong? Because I feel like there's something wrong here, but also wait, is that like or it was almost like is this a translation error or is this real? Like, do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
To that level of like, just what is going on? What is this? Because half the time I was like, okay, so this has a deeper meaning, and the other half of the time I was like, no, something's just wrong. This is something weird's happening.
Mhm.
I think it's really cool to have an ability like that kind of explain the 3 gluttonies because it really is like you can see how each one of them has taken something.
Yes,
And
indeed.
yeah, it just feels like whatever their environment may be or whoever the other parent was maybe affected how it split up in the eclipse. I'm not too sure, but yeah.
Mm-hmm. It's also like we get at the end when she's, slowly dying from the fact that Shala shoots her through the womb in order like to knock her out, to take her out of here.
Mhm.
That she is fully blaming her death not on Shala, but on the kids being born here as the villagers misunderstand her like last intent
Mhm.
and choose to
Yeah.
preserve their lives over hers. That she is specifically blaming Lai and Roy for killing her. And we know that like those are the ones running around with the gluttony authority nowadays. So
Yeah.
like, that makes me like think even back to other thoughts and like the ways that how exactly does an authority pass? Like there's nothing that we can say too deeply here, but I think it's an interesting like point to consider. Like, does the intention or belief of the previous person matter for how the witch factor passes?
Back on this topic, because I kind of want to speculate a little bit on what that could be, right? Because that's a really interesting thing to think about, and it almost makes me think: is it that newborn children are like a really compatible with gluttony because they just hunger for like sustenance to exist and continue to develop as a being? Because in that sense, they would just be pure gluttony, like very initially. Do you know what I mean? Like that could impact the compatibility with it. I feel like.
I suppose. I think there's a tie of like what's hunger, what's gluttony, like what's desire versus what's greed, and that whole like digging deep into that. Like I would
Deeper
never
into
call
that.
a newborn kid gluttonous, but
They gotta be
the
for
way that
survival.
that's just natural aspects to them. But the whole I mean, she obviously does not care like for these kids at all. She's like immediately wanting to sacrifice them to preserve her own life. She's kept them in her womb for 3 years, like
As a tool.
yeah, as a tool, as
Ugh.
just another form of pity. Like, I'm poor, feel bad for me. I'm weak, feel bad for me. I'm a woman, feel bad for me. I'm pregnant, feel
I'm
bad for me.
pregnant. I'm pregnant, and the father has died in a very tragic way, and I'm gonna make it seem like it's really sad and not that there's not anything deeper. She's a character that to me that is like the perfect example of, and as you were mentioning before earlier, of like almost people you can have met in real life, where the pity is so deep that the person is shallow in like every sense.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
It's its own kind of Archbishop insanity. She feels very in keeping with the theme of the witch cult for me, in my opinion.
Absolutely. Like the vibes are there from the beginning, and it's not a secret on this channel that I was not the biggest Shaula fan my first time reading through Arc 6. Kyle's performance obviously made a big difference. The current anime makes a big difference.
Merci.
I have never related and thought like, damn, Shaula's right more than just how like put off and annoyed she was by Leilani's attitude the whole time as she was just prying
Mhm.
deeper and deeper into her own story, her secrets, and then eventually into kind of our big reveal at the end, her room of tracking how long she's been in this tower, like of where she quote locks away her memories as a almost a very physical metaphor for how her power was working the whole time as well, which is a nice little tie-in at the end of the book.
And it really grounds you in the fact that Shala's fucking lonely.
Mm-hmm.
Something I do want to bring back, while we're talking about the pregnancy and stuff, is going a little back in chapter 3. We hear Shala's opinions on being a mother and like, you know, not wanting kids of her own, but if her master said he did, of course she would do it, but she's never wanted to in her life. And it started making me think about the pain that a creation feels from the absence of its creator. I mean, Shala's constantly waiting for her mother, constantly waiting for her master, chilling out, waiting. And then she's, you know, talking about how there's a quote I pulled up from her later on where she's talking about the root of evil for generations to come in chapter 4, just before we get Leilani's chapter, where Shala's jokingly talking about the fact that, you know, if you don't kill off the people you're looking for, mother, then there's going to be a root of evil to come for generations, and what are you going to do then? And that kind of thing. And that constant, like, theme that we see throughout ReZero of parent and child, and the issues of what the parent brings to the child, what they do from it, and, like, generational legacy and how that affects has been a really huge theme throughout ReZero. So the fact that Tepe wrote a little short story, including Shaula of all people, to bring that back to the forefront is kind of crazy.
It is really cool. You bring up a fantastic point too, in that sense of, because the whole novel, even the flashback elements, it's kind of about found family. I think in a way too, isn't it? Right, like in the sense of this is my family dynamic. This is Shaula growing up, and these are the people that have influenced her. And part of this story is the tragedy of her forgetting most of it and kind of it all being a blur, and part of it is Leilani using her authority to write that away, but another part is that she has genuinely forgotten a lot of it, and that she needs the contextual moment she spends with Leilani to actually bring it back to the forefront of her mind.
Right. In affirmation to that, if you have a disagreement with that, I'm interested to hear it. I think it's very interesting to see in the moments that Shaula spends with Leilani, even if it was duplicitous. I took it as Shaula was starting to actually genuinely feel bad for Leilani and see in Leilani because Shaula has a thing about, you know, inefficiencies and weakness and not understanding humans, right? Which comes from her creator, and also comes from, you know, literally being inhuman, right? And being made for a singular purpose. In my estimation, the experiences that we see with what's his name of Farsail and Alec Ocean gives us a good insight into how she slowly started to have respect for people other than her master and the weakness inside of humans. And she forgot that over the years. And then by seeing a weak pregnant person, initially her thought was discussed. Her thought was only keeping to the mission.
Mhm.
But then she started to recognize those qualities in this weak, pregnant woman that she remembered in the people that she admired, her old friends,
Yeah.
Hoshin and, Farcel.
Yeah, and I'll let you talk about what you were thinking in a second here, Connor. But to branch off a little bit from that gold, I feel like it very much feels like to me, Shaula had, after eliminating the negative issues of having to deal with that authority and what it was doing to her, I feel like Shaula actually got a positive experience from these interactions in reinforcing those moments for her, you know?
Okay, that kind of ties into what I was going to say. Of like, I was going to push back on it being a Shaula story being a tragedy, because ultimately what ends up saving her is not like her single-minded devotion or like a supernatural aspect to it, because all of that was getting overwritten with Leilani. It was a rejection of the love that she did and does still feel being what breaks her out. Like, you love me first, no, and then that breaks her free. All this time we're seeing like these moments where when Shaula was young, she was feeling pity for these other people, that she was feeling bad about how weak a couple people were, or about how awful some people acted, or about the relationships or work and missions that they had to do. And the entire time that Leilani is here, she's only here because the gospel told her this is her mission, this is her job. She's only doing all of this to accomplish her one singular goal out of a unnatural look of love, as all the Sin Archbishops always do, of like, don't you care about me, don't you feel bad for me, this is like what I'm supposed to do, won't you help me? Whereas Shaula is, as she states at the end, still here and keeping track of the days, not out of any sort of malice or out of feeling of this is what I'm supposed to do, but it is out of love for him, for her master. That it's she's doing this whole thing in a, I wouldn't call it healthy in the modern sense, but she's a supernatural creature, so we could call it in a healthier fashion than even say Beatrice was, who was, I think, is more like Leilani in that she was feeling forced to do it.
It's crazy because this story has made me feel so many parallels from Shaula to Freerin, which is so weird to say. But, like, I know they weren't with Shaula for long for Arc 6 at this point, but you can almost feel the difference in how she treats this group in Season 4, Arc 6, than she has in this little side story. Obviously, she's way more closer and more friendly than Freerin is, but very similar, like, viewing humans from that, like, standoff point and then, outliving them tenfold and seeing how those like connections work and how she feels over time with these humans compared to herself being essentially immortal is what we're kind of grasping at.
I mean, basically, yeah. It's not only is she, though, like embodying that part of being immortal, she has made it a point of she has used this time to hone herself into the version that she wants to be. That she has gone, like 50 times more powerful than anyone ever envisioned that she would be able to be, as well as honing her perfect body for Master to love. And
she really does get a training arc with Reed and Blondie.
Yeah. Which, I mean, this whole story ultimately is kind of just a narrative device to let us see some of these moments through Shaula's perspective. And honestly, they're kind of the highlight of the story for me. So if we're ready, we can start jumping into a few of them.
Let's do it. Should we go in order of chapters? Make it a little easier to organize?
That's also the most interesting order to go through. So
yeah, I agree.
Yeah, let's start with it.
Let's go sequential order.
Memories of Red Hair.
Yeah, we could.
Who wants to tackle the first one? Let's tackle the first one.
So Reed is still awful, isn't he? This guy just fucking sucks.
I really like how Tapei is unabashedly like just admitting that he is just a terrible person. He isn't trying to redeem him in any way. He makes him more human in his inhuman ways, and I think that's a really well thought out way to write a character like that.
Which is also an important parallel against Shaula.
Yeah, and especially somebody who is like the forebearer of this like beloved family of Lagunica. Fucking trash man.
He's just a monster in and out, going and beating back all these forces constantly. It's nice to see that at least he wasn't, I mean, he was still being like weird and creepy, but not as fondling-ish as he is towards like Amelia and the modern Shala, calling her like a short stack. You've got like no body to adore.
I think he did.
A
He
little,
did some weird
bit.
stuff, but it wasn't the same kind of weird. Like Connor's kind of hitting it right. He is fucking weird.
Mhm.
He
But
was
he
still
ain't that
poking her all over.
Yeah,
It's-
but
it's-
he's
it's
almost doing
still-
it out of insulting her rather than like what I would call like assault that he does to, like Amelia.
Not giving
Yeah,
too much
it's-
credit.
Yeah, no.
I will say here that it is still assault. I don't think it's on the same level as what he did to Amelia, obviously. But like the
Obviously, we're
implication
not supposed to
what
agree
we
with it, yeah.
understand.
No, of course
Yeah.
not.
Because
The
Reed,
implication from what I understand is that this is actually quite accurate to people that are like Reed, which is kind of scary
Mhm.
how to pay has written him, in that he assaults. It's not just like women in his vicinity, it's other people. Like it's men. Like even in the anime for season 4, when he grabs Subaru's internal organs in that one loop, it's
Mhm.
very similar. It's all about the power dynamics of him being able to touch your body in ways that you don't want, and him being able to do it without you stopping him. It's gross, but it is very well written.
now, in the anime, I'm kind of blanking right now. Do we know how Reed is one of the test givers yet? I'm blanking.
No, that's not been explained.
No,
We're gonna put a
we
pin
do
in
not.
my comment then. I wrote it down on my paper.
Write that down. Write that down.
Write that down. I'm gonna come back to that. So if you're watching the analysis, we're gonna come back to that later. I hope I actually do. Otherwise, we're gonna get comments yelling at me. But
Mhm. As a relevant point for Reed, though, it is worth noting here that Shala is somehow a child in her backstory here. Not really something I expected her to be able to do was age. I thought it was more a Beatrice situation where she's just exists as this.
was she aging? I feel like throughout the entire narrative, they were talking about how like womanly she was this whole time.
She was talking about it,
Yeah,
but
she was
they were making
officially
the point
the
that she's
release.
small, that she's like a little kid
Ah.
here.
Mhm.
Oh,
She's just a wee thing.
That she wants to grow and develop the body that her master would be happiest for. Something that she's proud of having accomplished at the end.
Okay, that's something I did not catch on to.
It's a raw translation, so it's expected
That's
to
true.
happen. But yeah, but like she's a kid here, at least from mine and a few others interpretations or understandings of how this was written out.
Yeah, it definitely says that she was young back when she met
Ah.
Yeah.
Reed the first time and stuff.
Okay, perfect. That gives me something, to talk about later.
I mean, honestly, Reed's kind of the weakest part here. There's not a ton here. We know who he is. We know what he does. It's
It's not a
nice
very
to,
deep character.
yeah. Most we get to see is how cooperative he is with the rest of the group in accomplishing their goals.
Yeah, which is weird.
Which is crazy.
Very
Yeah,
fun.
that's
Specifically with this Far Sale character, which we'll talk more about as we go further in.
What were you saying,
Blondie.
Colt?
I was best to say that exactly. The basic thing that I was thinking about is that Reed is more of an interesting character when we contrast with the fact that he respects Farsail for some reason. That's something that is mysterious,
Mm-hmm.
Or at
Farsail
least-
does hurt him pretty badly with the star staff.
Yeah, that's true, but
Isn't that the staff they use in Arc 5, season 3? The
I
felt
think so.
one?
The
I
felt
believe so.
crabs?
Yes.
Supposed to be.
Yeah, the one that launched the Kamehameha. Yeah.
Kamehameha!
That's so
Into
funny.
Louis, right?
It's
Um,
when Louis appears in place of Roy. Like they blast Roy
Roy.
with it, and then Louis takes their place.
But it's not
Very
Roy, that's
interesting.
Lay.
Yes.
Oh, it is Lay. You're right. It
Very
is.
interesting that Gluttony, that Star Staff, and Felt, who's been accused of being a part of the Lagunican family, are all
Mhm.
there.
Although, as kind of our reference for a Lagunican noble, this Goldie, this gold hair blonde boy Farsail, very very different from Felt. A much more proper and like royal speaking individual.
Sounds like Priscilla, but nice.
I was thinking the
Yeah,
same thing.
a little bit more demure.
Very
You
demure.
brought a really good, you brought a good part up there, which is the fact that this is definitely the same staff because Felt uses the staff, and if she is Farsail's ancestor, it's a direct parallel to
Mhm.
using the staff.
Exactly.
Because I think I remember, I think it's Betty who says, like, oh, how are you using that? Like, somebody does
Yes.
in that moment. It was either Betty or Otto. in
Well,
season 3.
I think Betty is like showing her like this is how you have to use it, but because Beatrice has no mana of her own to use, it still has to come from Felt.
Right.
But I really like Farsail in this.
I do
He's
too.
so
great.
nice.
He's characterized so interesting. He's a very complex character too. He's way less simple than he appears to be. There's a lot of deep emotion in a lot of his scenes that I feel like there's way more to unearth about his character. You know,
He gives a lot of love to Shaula here, which I thought was very sweet. And it makes me feel like if I'm Shaula, this sort of experience would be the thing that would impact me the most. Because from our perspective as readers, we don't know anything about how her master treated her or how anybody else treated her. But we see Farsail here treats her more like a normal person than anybody else, it seems.
Almost like a brother or like a father, now knowing she's little.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah. He's explaining like, like you still have a long way to go, but you're going to get there. Where Reed is just you suck. You can't keep up right now. Like there's really nothing you can do to me.
Reed is
He
the
also
awful older
does
brother that punches down.
Mm-hmm.
He also does something that what amazing real people and most amazing like characters in this scenario do is that he stands up to bullies. He stands up to Reed, like the most powerful man conceivably here for Shaula, and he does that without hesitation.
Yeah.
Despite them seemingly having a decent relationship, he is willing to admit his faults and lash out at Reed here. I mean, he literally makes Reed panic. It's like, oh my god, that could kill me. You know?
What are you
Which
trying to
was
do?
awesome.
You prick. You prick this.
The quick, interesting note as well that comes from this this interaction that kind of establishes our cast of characters as well here is obviously we have like all the ones that Shaula talks to between Farsail, the blonde hair, Reed, the red hair. We get Alec, Hoshin, but as well as Mommy, Echidna. But we also have the reference to the princess and him, which we get from Farsail
Oh yeah.
and everyone else, which I mean can only be Flugel and Satella.
Yep.
Yes.
Because
Wait,
that's
really?
their
Why?
adventure party.
They're the only ones. She's the only one missing.
Yeah.
That's
If
right.
they introduce a princess now, that's going to throw a whole wrench in the circuit.
Yeah, which is a lovely parallel since everybody treats Amelia so special. Again, more parallels.
Mm-hmm. Well, so that's an interesting parallel I'm thinking because that's not really like our princess character. That's not the role Amelia fills. She's filled as the witch, the incredibly powerful magic user that people fear, which I think lines up more to Echidna in this group than it does to Princess.
Yes. And what's really cool here, actually, and I want to mention this, is I won't go too much details into the afterward because we'll discuss that more later. But one thing that Tapei mentions is that he wanted to expand the world and show the world. And from my understanding of the timeline of things, a lot of these scenes seem to be set before the Cataclysm, right?
Yeah, they would have to be.
They don't seem to hate Satella.
Which and this implication of princess, I'm just going to throw this out there. Is Satella actually like an elven princess of her time from a long consumed nation that she ate in the Cataclysm? Wouldn't that be really interesting?
It's
That'd be
very
cool.
possible. But princess can also be used as a derogatory term for like, all right, princess, get on board and move around here.
Naive, innocent. But it could be both. I think that could be really interesting.
A double entendre.
Although there is the point that Farsail is mentioning to Reed that the princess and witch would be like a better match for him than Shaula, kind of really showcasing their power levels here. Instead of going bullying them, go pick on someone your own size, of specifically those two.
Good luck with that, basically.
Yeah, 100%.
Oh.
We also do get a mention at this point in time of a new group that I don't think we can dive into too much.
Do we? I read so fast.
Yes.
Yes, we do.
I read this in 2 hours before this, by the way.
The priestess faction?
The branches of the Saintess
Order.
Saintess faction, that's it, yes.
Whoa, is this in the blonde hair chapter?
This is when it's like, I think this is when it briefly goes to Echidna between the two Reed scenes.
Yeah, but there's a scene in which Reed is blowing up people that are making a barrier, or she hell snipes some guys making a barrier.
Yeah.
And they said that they're part of the Saintess.
Branches of the Saintess Order exist all over the world. and the number of affiliates belonged to them is quite high. She felt like she had heard such an explanation from Mother before.
Mm-hmm.
New antagonist
Wow!
group we learn about here.
I think they say they're in white robes as well.
Yes, they are.
Yep.
Mimi?
I don't think it's a big leap to suggest that this group eventually merges or forms into the witches cult in the modern day.
Mm.
This is likely the same kind of organization slipped in.
It seems
because like we
very...
see the witch cult from Goose in season 2 of like a
yes, exactly.
benevolent group, and this one seems like a terrorist organization.
Yeah, how something good starts and then it becomes bad. And like, actually, no, I'm not going to say that because even though I haven't read this part, maybe that could be something that leads to thinking. But you know who else we have? First time speaking in this series, Mr. Alec O'Sheen.
Alec O'Sheen.
Yeah.
Beardy, who also is physically very frail, apparently.
Who we kind of saw in Isekai Quartet. Spoiler alert for Isekai Quartet.
Which is really funny.
Yes, for those of you confused at home of this being anime only, the only information on Alec O'Sheen we have gotten has come from Isekai Quartet and associated material.
Which is bullshit, by the way.
Which is wild, but this is more than we've really gotten from that as well, of kind of confirmation that he's like a normal guy that's learning from Master. So we find out that Hoshin is basically just a regular guy in this world that has been learning all of his Japaneseisms that we saw went through Kararagi in season 3, like developed into a Japanese manner and the Kansai dialect that he picks up for the purpose of uniting his own nation with a distinct culture. Like, this guy is just playing a civ building game as a living person at the end of his life.
He genuinely is. And it's really, I feel like thematically it's very interesting too, in that if he has motivations to do that, it doesn't seem like it purely for power in that sense, right? It seems like it's for a genuinely good-hearted reason. And because he even mentions that, I would have created a whole separate language, but that just didn't make sense to do. So I learned this Kansai dialect from Master him.
Yeah.
And what's really interesting about that is that it's all in this belief and idea of creating this nation. And I feel like his whole conceptual idea of this is to create this meritocratic place that exists, right? In this place where you can make yourself and have these individualistic values. And what that means is that there isn't a place in the world at this point that fits those values for people, which is interesting. Kararagi is its own sort of becoming idea.
Yeah.
The idea that this place that is entirely uninhabitable, that could perhaps hold the key to a free and new nation is something that is, talked about here. And we didn't really know too much about what Kararagi is. In the modern day, it seems like a den of debauchery, unchecked capitalism, and slavery. But the foundation seemed to have been through a heart of, freedom and prosperity and, the lack of prejudice, right? And that kind of shows a trajectory that we kind of get for all of the people who are part of this adventuring party. In the modern age, the little bit that we've heard is that a lot of these people are bad. I mean, we know Echidna is bad in the main story. And, like the Master seems nefarious, this Flugel seems nefarious. And we know that, Satella is bad and all this stuff. And we get this idea that maybe all of their desires or dreams once was noble. And I think that that's something kind of interesting when you take a look at the tragedy of the situation that all of these characters are faced with, is that they all tried to do something great.
Yeah.
And even back then, being a witch like Echidna was something that was feared. So Echidna's lived since she was born, we'll get to this later, as somebody that people feared. And she's, had a tough time living.
It's that fall from grace that's so confusing, because like they're seen as the most powerful people, but how did they fall? And they used to be best friends, and now they despise each other. I mean, the Pleiades Watchtower is holding Satella. What happened?
Well, it's also interesting that the only ones that we kind of get a negative perspective of throughout all of this is like there's some negative view of Volcanica, I think from Far Sail's POV. I think it's briefly, I have like a single note about disliking Volcanica. But also Reed obviously sucks. But those are the two that are remembered most fondly as heroic people from back in the day compared to everyone else that's remembered negatively. Like Hoshin
Yeah.
even has a saying, Hoshin is Banan
Yes,
Sunset,
Banan
that you say to
Sunset.
someone before you're about to absolutely wreck them.
Exactly. And this is, I'm so glad you mentioned that, because I've been thinking about that for the past couple of minutes, and it's really cool, because to me that seemed to be an event that might have happened potentially after the cataclysm in the timeline, and to me that speaks to me of an idea of Hoshin stooped lower to achieve his goals. Do you know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
he to achieve his dream that he thought was noble, he stoops to bad ends. And it's like all of these characters, there's so much like angst and drama dripping from it, in the sense of they're fighting, they're trying to achieve certain goals and dreams, and all of them just crumble into things that they could never have imagined or wanted, but a lot of them still trudge along to try to achieve them anyway. And it's, as Gold was saying, it's really tragic and like deeply human and sad.
Yeah.
Well, let me pose this to all of you as well, because our most concrete example of, we know who they were in life, we know their reputation now, and we know how they were in death, is Echidna, who we see, like the version of her that we talk to for the most time is like this cruel, vindictive, young teenage form of her. But the one that Beatrice and Roswell remember was this kind, motherly figure that died in a fight at the end. But the current perspective of her has been erased by the witches cult. So how much of the current reputation of everyone is just from messing with history, or like telling the stories differently, or changing perceptions over 400 years by the witch cult?
By like an active detractor, you know, it's not even just a natural element of history, it's
The victors
like
write the
it's a
history.
cover-up.
Yeah.
Exactly.
The gluttonies erase the memories, all this stuff.
Mm-hmm.
There's a lot to do.
It's like the world's almost forgotten about the other six witches. Is like how effective that their anti-history campaign has been. I don't think it's out of the question for them to flip the perspectives of, oh, this like giant monster that caused devastation and this huge dragon are like seen as like heroic figures, while everyone who did the real work and did the sacrifices with Echidna and Satella and Hoshin are now seen as almost villainous in the end, to like discourage people from doing the same things.
And Flugel has like been forgotten and changed, and like it was all flipped onto Shaula as well. That's another element of like, it's all like muddied and wrong and not to the truth.
And something with that too is, you know, we hear like, we heard Subaru say it in Core 1, like, your master's messed up and stuff like that. But it seems like from this story, Shaula has not actually done anything lewd, per se, with her master. It doesn't, like, if she's young, it doesn't seem like he actually did anything with her. She just loves him so much. So, is he actually that monster we think he is? Because he's nowhere near her as she's growing up. So it seems like he's either completely avoiding her because she's like that, or something else is going on.
It's
I think we're
definitely
seeing the
giving
points where he's not there, almost.
partly, but I think it is a fact of like, she knows from Echidna of the kind of person that he would be attracted to, and I'm assuming that she likely knows from knowing who Echidna and Satella are of that aspect as well. That's the womanly body that she wants in the future and strives to achieve for herself. Not something that she has now.
I mean, that's a whole weird section itself, because Tapei has started to become seemingly more comfortable with writing this stuff, but we actually get a moment of like internal narration from Shaula where she does actually like think about her own sexuality and stuff, which I wasn't expecting. It was really interesting.
That was wild.
It was really cool. I love when we get to see lenses of characters that in depth, and I'm glad that we're seeing more of it in this story, because the story. Obviously, it's always been a mature story, but as Tapei matures as an author, as the story matures, we're getting more mature subject matter, which is really cool.
so sorry for getting us off on topic with that, but bringing us back on topic, the one thing I wanted to ask, because I don't remember it all, is it confirmed that Alec Ocean, because I feel like I heard something, he's not from that world, right? He was isekai too?
No, he is not.
No.
No.
Basically, as somebody from the ReZero world, he has taken all of Flugel's, like otherworldly information and is cosplaying with the Japanese mindset. So people attribute all of the stuff that Flugel brought into the world as Alec's ideas.
Right,
But we
Yes,
know
which-
that
Flugel was
Flugel's
isekai.
ideas. Yeah, exactly.
That's the understanding that we have. Where here we finally find that Hoshin did all that and basically became a weeb for the purpose of giving Kararagi its own cultural identity that he could unify them under. Like, it was done with intention.
And it's like a shortcut in the sense of I don't have to make all of this from scratch. I can borrow ideas from someone that is genuinely foreign.
Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
that makes sense.
Yes. So back on track with so we were at Alec Hoshin and doing everything there, but something that we get from the conversation with Alec with Hoshin, not only is this happening during a point in time where it seems like the rest of the party are just making a giant wall around a city, and I'm wondering which city is that? Is that one that we know of?
Yeah.
Oh yeah,
Is that one we know
right.
of, or is this random? Because this could be Pristella, right? Potentially.
It could be Pristella. It could be the capital city. It could be other cities from other parts of the story. But I just thought that's an interesting thing. Is that supposed to be something that we know of?
I always thought that they were in Karagi because they said that they got the materials from a canyon nearby, and I don't know of too many canyons in Lagunica, so maybe I'm wrong, but I don't know.
Perhaps.
Good point.
Yeah. We just know it has white walls, right?
Pristella would be interesting, especially with the fact that Typhon's buried at the bottom of Pristella.
The only thing with Pristella is that they're saying they're building these walls to keep a beast out, not to get something inside of it. Like, that was a city that they built inside of a trap, not. But that could also be propaganda in the aftermath, so who knows?
True, that's the crazy thing.
Psyops.
It's like, what can you believe at this point? I feel like to pay lies.
He does, for sure. But the other thing is that we get the suggestion from Hoshin that, or from Shaula to Hoshin, that it's possible that Echidna could just pull his soul out and put him into a new body. That he just says, "No, I'm fine. I just struggle to walk a little bit."
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I saw that too, and that kind of immediately gave me an answer about a lot of things. But right now, it just shows kind of how maybe the cloning device works in the sanctuary. Let's say.
Yes, and that's likely
yes.
some of the research that Roswell uses to keep himself immortal and passing down for his own descendants. So it's interesting.
Have we fully explained that in an anime only podcast yet? Because I remember that took me out.
I think we covered it in our magic episode.
Okay.
But for the sake of it, if you didn't know at home, Roswell can take his soul out and replace his own family members' souls because they're similar enough to his over time. And that's why he's El Mathers, because it's like the 13th time that he's done this.
Yeah.
Or something.
This is something that went over my head when I was in anime only back in season 2, but that's essentially what they're talking about with Sanctuary in season 2. So it's not a spoiler, but just to make that connection, because it's not as clear when you're in anime only, because there is some context that's in the web novel, light novel, that isn't fully explained. But yeah. The guy literally will go bang somebody in his past carnations and then put his soul into his child's soul and then continues the generation. That's why everyone sees, well, not everyone, but the people who know see him as a monster.
Yeah, he's a messed up guy. But it's interesting to see that we have a similar mechanism in play, like all the way back here to the point that even a young Shaula understands what it is. And that leads to questions like, is that what Shaula is?
Yeah,
like,
how is she made?
Is it somebody else's soul? I don't know.
And she was specific, and I don't know if this is a translational thing, but there's a specific mention of her being birthed too, not just created, but like birthed.
Well, and if she's aging too, like who birthed
Betty,
her?
She also says, I was involved in Beatrice's birth when Beatrice was not born from a womb, like the kids are in this book.
I don't think
But
Echidna
it's
is
more
actually a
specifically
mama.
because well, it's just because it's Shaula referring to it rather than Echidna. I don't know. Like to me, that has relevant. I don't know.
I
Again, that could
mean,
be wording.
similar to what the creature says in Frankenstein. He says he was birthed, but really he was not.
Yeah,
Mhm.
Quite
but by
spiritual thing.
understanding of them, they were birthed. It's, I mean,
It's when
your
they came
lot,
into boo.
being, yeah.
One thing I would really like to talk about, though, now that we've gotten onto Hoshin in general, is this kind of like an underlying theme of disability in this story.
Yes.
Yeah.
Following both Hoshin and Echidna, and like physical disability and how people can find their worth and value in life. Because all of these characters are actualized to a point where they've found their value of what they offer to the world, regardless of what physical limitations may be in their way for Echidna and for Hoshin here, as an example, of they are limited in what they can do physically, but have achieved great heights in other areas and have really like come to, I think, in especially the vibes like a cruel world that's filled with way more weird magic than we know of in our modern time, like barriers and stuff. All of that. That's not a common ReZero thing in our modern time,
And
to
it's
my
a
understanding.
really cool echo too with like Anastasia Hoshin and Aridna literally supporting
Yes.
Anna when she goes inside herself and her lack
Yeah.
of ability to control her gait.
Yeah,
Exactly.
I was about to say that it's an interesting connection that one of their party members from this 400-year ago group has their member that's like notably disabled, but is still, as like Shaula experiences, has this force of power and presence that she still feels coming off of him, as despite being physically weak. When we get that same exact thing from like kind of his representation and honorary descendant of Anastasia, who takes his name in reverence for him as she is disabled and using magic. But our own party also has someone that is physically disabled,
Yes.
but still has a powerful presence to her with Rom.
Right,
Ron.
yeah,
saw that
exactly.
too.
Yes, and the further emphasis on Echidna and like her disability and Roswell's like love and appreciation for her, then being reflected and parallel back with Ram's own feelings towards her disability and her chronic pain, and her feelings towards Roswell is such an awesome parallel.
And Roswell
Genuinely,
helping take care of her disability as well.
yeah,
And
and
chronic
taking
pain.
care. Yeah, exactly.
Oh.
Just as Echidna helped with his illness as well
And
at one point
Aridna is
in that
helping with
flashback.
Anastasia.
Yes.
Of this level of support that comes with it and still lets them be this powerful, imposing figure.
I just want to say I love How to Pay writes disability. Genuinely, it like so much, not even just empathy, but also just like writing it in a sense that's very. I feel like it's ahead of a lot of media in Japan. This is a generalization, right? This is just a cultural thing, but
Yeah.
like I feel like To Pay is really progressive on that element. It
Even
makes me
in
really
any
happy.
media, because it's not in a like
Mhm.
he never seems to use it in a way that's kind of like what's the word for it, performative. It's always for a
Yes,
reason, and it just really emphasizes the kind of person and how strong you have to be, but also he's not afraid to give these people faults as well, because like we see Anastasia
exactly.
is super greedy, but she's still really intelligent and she's still super smart.
I mean, ultimately, what the amazing thing of this is, and this is what any good writer does with anything, is that he doesn't make this one important element of their life, their entire character. He makes it a motivation for their character, like just a factor that adds into them.
We don't even know Ram has an invisible disability, an invisible illness until we get to season 4/arc 6. No clue.
Exactly.
Not an idea. We
I
know
mean,
there's something off. Of course, she
we
got her
kind
hand
of
cut,
do
but
in season 1, where it shows that she does have to get recharged by Roswell every night because in the spot where her horn is cut off. But
true. But that's
beyond
easy to
that,
brush off as fan service.
we don't see the extent of it until like we're needing Amelia and Beatrice to be healing her up every night, and just how physically ill it makes her. And we'll have to see in the future of the anime if that's explored even further.
Yeah.
And also, like, how vulnerable it makes her, too. Like, it's a very intimate and vulnerable thing that she can only share with people she trusts.
Yeah. Understandable. Honestly.
Yes, and it's nice to see that that kind of still harkens back with Hoshin having that perspective on him, and we also don't like hear from the others of having a negative view of him. Like
No.
Exactly.
Reed's personality, everyone rags on, but
They
and like
work with him.
Farsail's responsibilities, people even not poke fun at, but like make note of like he has to deal with this, he has to deal with that.
The
It's
weight of the
like
world on his shoulders kind of
the
vibe.
weight on the world on his shoulders.
Mhm.
With Hoshin, that's not brought up at all. It's just like here's what he has to do for himself and what he's planning to do, like all of his goals and ambitions.
It's not even just like a good man, but a good man who's competent and is willing to compromise. I mean, the whole reason this whole city section happens is because he solves a lot of the problems that brute force and magic couldn't solve with just
Mhm.
being a leader and the kind of man that he is. And when it harkening back to Anastasia and that, I really, really like this idea that Anastasia is the successor, not just to the Hoshin name, but to Hoshin's dream almost,
Mhm.
if that makes sense, of
It
like
is.
his desire for a country. Like Anastasia saying, "I want a country" when she wants Lagunica. When like without the context of this, it like adds to the layer of greed. But with that context of Hoshin's dream, to me, thematically, it feels kind of deeper. Do you know what I mean?
Well, the fact that she has beast people surrounding her in her army and all the
Mhm.
cat folk, and I
Yeah.
think she's a real embodiment of having a diverse society. Even though, well, even she doesn't seem to call Amelia a silver-haired witch in like a
No.
derogatory way ever. She'll say it with the masses and get under Subaru's skin, but she never truly is awful to Amelia. But probably a better person in terms of like leadership skills to be that king that Amelia wants to be, but a little more grounded. But I think that's why
This
she gets
is
along with Amelia too.
this is probably the version and the insight that Julia's had that made him side with her as well. Of this
Yeah.
Exactly.
unifying based on merit and sense of self and capability, despite any like known disadvantages or preconceptions or aspect of birth, because that's an important part of like who he is within his own family.
And if any
But I
of
don't want to get
y'all read
too
Sloth
deep into
we
that.
get a lot into Kararagi because that's where Rem and Subaru go
Oh yeah.
after they escape.
Yeah.
And we have a
Mhm.
podcast on that. So if you want to check that out, you should go check it out. I'll link it here.
Indeed.
Um, Speaking of
And I guess
mothers.
yeah, exactly. Moving on from there, we get to Mama. Mama, what does he call her?
Mommy
Witch
Ridna?
Coon. Yeah.
Mama
Mama Sama.
Echidna.
Sama.
Which
Mama
son?
Sama.
Mama Sama. Who we see in a couple points here, as a mother figure to another kind of immortal girl. Like that Beatrice is not the only one. Beatrice and Shaula are sisters, basically.
But
Unbeknownst to
Yeah, that's
her.
true.
Ankle biter.
but amazingly, like a really wonderful relationship between them. I thought in this, like genuinely.
It seems to
Well-
match the way that we see her with Beatrice and
Mhm.
Ryuzu's flashbacks of like she is just
Mhm.
a normal mom to her.
She feels like
And
a
it's
teen
not-
mom, as opposed to
Yeah.
Beatrice. She was kid mom.
Mm-hmm.
The only time we've seen Echidna even begin to banter like that with another character is with Subaru a little bit, which is really funny to me.
Yeah,
Mhm.
that we like as a mom here, it seems like Echidna is making an actual effort to end the cycle of abuse based on like I hate my own parents. I don't want you to hate me the way that I hate them because they were
Mhm.
awful. Like that's a horrible thing to say to your mom. Not like I would do any different, but she doesn't want that for Shaula. She wants her to have her. She made her with a purpose, obviously, but she doesn't seem upset that Shaula is crafting her own identity even back then.
Yeah.
There's a realm of creation here that I think I want to touch on immediately because we were just on top of this, conversation, which is Echidna admits something tacitly that I think is an interesting theme, which is we see her exhausted doing the radio calisthenics, and Shala pokes fun, and then talking about her creation. Echidna, doesn't admit this, but we're led to believe as an audience that Shala is what she idealizes as the perfect self that she never got to attain because of her weak body. So when she
Mhm.
created Shaula, that is the image of a perfect woman that she wanted to be. I thought that
It's
was pretty humbling because we
and it's also
don't get that
yeah.
type of like vulnerability from Echidna.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's really cool too because it's almost like another showing of love too, that she's giving Shaula things that she was never able to have for herself in a very not just I'm doing this for the concept of it, but I'm giving this to this being out of love.
It
Mhm.
even seems like Shala's outfit is Echidna's decision, because she even calls out Echidna for being like very modestly dressed, and like, why am I not modestly dressed? Even though she used to say it's Master, it's probably because Master would like it, but
Well, I think Shala was saying like she was like happy and proud to be basically exposed, that she was wanting
yeah,
this for herself
Hmm.
rather
Yeah,
than it coming from
exactly.
Echidna.
that's
And
Well,
true.
no, I
it-
But
think
like
yeah,
questioning why is Echidna covered up?
yeah, exactly.
Mhm.
If this is the type of person that, because part of that I kind of picked up on, and I don't know if you guys agree with this, is that Echidna, we see Echidna's real face at the end of season 2, and it's supposed to be not a beautiful face because another like I think it looks fine, right? Obviously, but like
Yeah, everyone complains about
in
the nose.
yeah, but like the point is that the bewitching Echidna that we see in the Tea Party probably isn't what her actual proportions or face looked like. So
Hmm.
this Echidna that everybody meets here is probably kind of small and lanky, or like like petite, thin, maybe like emaciate. Like
Hmm.
that's why she's so weak. Who knows, right? And
Mhm.
she's definitely not the voluptuous baboom, like woman that we see in the Tea Party. That's just
Yeah.
that's my like insight into this moment.
And you gotta wonder why. And we do get the books of the witches in the web novel. We don't get them in the light novel or in the anime. But I kind of wonder that with the witches being real on Earth, and Typhon has a crazy story, but were they actually as insane and crazy as history depicts them? Or when they end up in the witches' graveyard, is the manifestation of their witch power is what's crazy up there when they were actually just normal everyday people?
Well,
Or
I
like
think
Rio?
there's definitely levels to them. Echidna that we meet here and that we see in Roswell and Ryuzu's flashback does not match the person that we talked to
No.
in the Tea Party. Typhon does seem to match pretty 1-to-1 with her Book of the Dead,
Yes.
though.
Yeah.
The others we can't really discuss here, but I think
Yeah.
there's definitely a case to say that that's probably true for some of them, but ultimately only Echidna and Satella are with this group.
True.
So
True.
there's something that happens there that I guess causes one or both of them to flip and do the horrible things that they apparently do.
Mm-hmm. That's
What's interesting here too is the implication of this scene with Mama here is that this is a Shaula that's grown up now and is in this better body, right? So time has passed and we're at a specific point of time in this timeline. I mean,
I'm
we even get
I'm not
some.
positive about that, but keep going.
There's a discussion here at the end where, and this is like Shaula is inferring this because she's observing her mother so closely,
Mm-hmm.
is that Echidna is trying to have this moment with Shaula because she's being vulnerable with her and trying to give her something because Echidna seems like she's about to go do something really dangerous.
Yeah.
Is the implication.
Which she agrees.
Hmm.
And also, this tower is up in the sky and new. So this is the freshly built
No,
Pleiades?
this is her
Question
sky
mark?
castle.
Yeah, this is a castle on a floating
Oh,
island in the sky.
We
Jesus.
see these.
Not
Is it the
pleased.
break times for season 2? I think we see it
I
actually
think
at
it's
one point.
I think
Oh
it's
my god.
shown briefly, but
I haven't even
this is the
seen
first
that.
time it's come up in the main story.
Oh my god.
Hmm. This is the first time I've read about it in the main story, but yes, she does have a literal flying castle.
So Shala has this like job to do in Echidna's sky castle while there's stuff going on the ground.
Yes, they are up there. And I think the implication that this is only a couple days after her interaction with Hoshin, because she's making they're repeating the question that she asked him, like, why are you living with the body you have? So I think she is still small here. That
Mhm.
she's just envisioning the body that she wants to have.
I don't know, but one thing that I did pick up on is definitely the attitude of why she's there. And Shala picks up on death flags, which makes me think that this, flying into battle with this castle seems to be a climactic moment of sorts. We've gotten
Mm-hmm.
one of these before with Hector, the Witch of the Warlock of Melancholy. And now we're getting another one where she's flying in a castle. Like, what is this leading to? Like, I don't know.
Mm-hmm.
I wonder if this castle kind of gets made into part of the tower eventually, because we don't really get a mention of it at all here. So this is clearly before the tower is put together by allegedly Flugel.
There's parts about white stone that I'm just bringing this up now because it might not connect to anything, and it might be important. There's parts about like white stone that the cultists of the Saintus, right? They are using to make these towers and making these barriers, right? And that reminded me of the white stone that is mentioned directly in this EX novel when discussing the white stone of the Watchtower. So I was wondering if they were made by the same person
Oh.
or the same idea there. That's just my thought.
It makes sense
Well,
if it's the same architect.
Yeah, and it seems like the basic concept is Echidna gets the stone, and then Reed and Farsail, I think, both, or Reed and at least one other that craft it into whatever that they are trying to make out of it. But it's ultimately just, it's a nice scene between them of like what they're wanting in the future, of Echidna like having her wish of like her still desire to know and understand everything else, compared to what Shaula wants of to be like perfect for Flugel, to be kind of like what she was designed for, but ultimately what she chooses for herself as well.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Ugh.
And it's really cool to see a lot of. We don't see all of the characters from this party here.
Mm-hmm.
We'll talk more about that later. But I like that we get to see these people be more humanized than these figures we've kind of been talked about before. Like we get to see their very human flaws and worries, but also their dreams. Like I love how Farsail and Alec Hoshin are characterized in this. They're genuinely such fascinating characters.
Mm-hmm.
And Reed is Reed.
And Reed is
And,
Reed.
and we get a little thing about, speaking about that, we get a little thing at the end of talking about, like Echidna is following the wishes of what we assume is Satella by doing this at the end. And Shala has an idea of what about Mama's wish? And we don't get that answered. So we get this idea about what all of these other people actually are wanting, but we still don't know what Echidna truly is in her heart in this moment.
Yeah.
And I think that leaves for an interesting question to linger on amidst all these stories.
Like ultimately we don't get to see Satella or him here at all, and it's kind of leaving you wanting, like Tappe mentioned afterwards, there's more to come.
Or the Divine Dragon.
Or the Divine Dragon, correct.
Volcanica!
Volcanica. Anything else kind of to wrap up with our flashback here that we get from Shala? Because I think we kind of hit a lot of the main points we can go to without spoilers.
And I think all we got left
I think we've hit basically everything.
We get a little bit in the epilogue. That's really all that's left. That kind of gives us a bit of Shala's POV from where we start off of the team entering the Pleiades Watchtower in season 4. And we also get the impact of how long Shaula has been here, thanks to Leilani pointing it out. So you can go into the rest of season 4 understanding that loneliness that she felt, that I found you, how intense it might actually be.
And also that I found you dialogue getting like extended here. We're getting more of it and it being more emotional and like really, really deeply, like it deeply affected me. I won't lie. I was in Shawla's head for this story. It was very emotional. I felt like it was really poignant.
This would make it a killer flashback in the anime, but it's never going to happen, obviously.
Imagine that they they added flashbacks from side stories in season 2, so nothing is impossible.
The last episode of the season is supposedly extended I've heard.
Yay!
So one can dream.
Will it go into
One-
Arc
You know.
7? Maybe.
Perhaps we can dream.
Mhm.
Before we
a
end
couple-
off this... Oh,
I was going to say a couple things to mention at the end of this story here is, for one, that Shaula, as a point, does just shoot Leilani through the stomach and kills one of the kids that she's pregnant with.
oh yeah.
Like, full stop. Like, brutal move from Shaula. We saw her
Oh,
murder our party, but, like, damn.
It says the chest here. She is because she
Yeah.
mentions it's a loophole. 'Cause she can't harm the children, and she
Yeah,
can't kill
she-
the person carrying them.
But I agree with Chase on this. Yeah, she was shot in the heart. I don't think Shaula killed the baby. Not in the stomach.
Mhm.
That was the one thing
That's what
she
it
wasn't
looks
allowed to do, so she didn't
Yeah.
aim there. And that kind of led to the baby's death in our minds, but we don't. It's mysterious enough that we don't actually know what happened.
I have a theory,
Yeah,
but I gotta
it's kind of
wait.
weird. A theory.
One thing I wanted to leave off with real quick is a little note from Tepe at the end. And here's his quote. By the way, since this bonus novel comes with volume 1 of season 4 of the anime, I imagine anime only fans were left going, "Wait, what's happening?" But don't worry, everyone who reads the original web novel light novels was going, "Wait, what's happening?" too. That's just how packed with never before revealed lore this rare little volume was. So we're just as mindfucked as you guys.
Just
true.
to throw for context here, it does say that the hole that they fight her at the end was in her belly. It says chest earlier, but that could just be torso, which would encompass the whole
True.
everything above the legs. It's implied here that one of them's already dead by the time that the people find her.
Yes, that is confirmed. I have something to say about that, but we gotta wait for the
Mhm.
next part of the video. We talked about the star name, and Tepe confirms that yes, Leilani is Roy Lion, Louis' mother, obviously,
Yes, indeed.
in his words.
Her name at the beginning is kind of a play on that with Leilani. When you put it into Romanji, the first couple Mora of that line up with Rai, Roy, and Rui, which all work
Mhm.
with that same fashion. And her last name is the name of the brightest star in the I think it's Gus constellation.
Gruis, Alpha
is-
Gruis.
Yeah.
Gruis, yes.
Which is the crane.
It is the
Mhm.
crane.
Another
Interesting.
animal one, and notably keeping the convention of her children with the last name being the star name here, not the first.
Hmm. That'll dive into more at a later time.
Yeah. I
Uh,
think with that, we are going to wrap up the anime only spoiler free section. Thank you all for being here. If you're an anime only, do not click on the next video attached to this. If you are a web novel / light novel reader, or you just want to get ahead of the curve and talk about all things arc 7 to probably 9, since I haven't caught up with 10 yet, and some
Mhm.
other stuff that's not in the anime, you can click on this video right here, right now. It's a companion one. You're welcome. But for
but
ya,
until next
Thank
anime
you.
time,
onlys. Bye bye, anime
Bye-bye.
onlys.
bye.
Bye.
Goodbye.